Our story begins sometime in the 1920s, on the pier opposite the lakeside resort town of Esbury, Massachusetts. The sun sinks low on the horizon as you board the ferry headed across the lake to Esbury. As you set foot on the boat, the ferryman greets you with a wide smile and a cheery wave. He stands by the gangplank as you pass, welcoming the other passengers as he removes his cap to scratch at his balding head. His pudgy figure fills his well-worn suit. He looks a little awkward, but he seems a rather pleasant sort. Leaving the man behind you, you take a seat toward the prow, eyes fixed on your destination. You settle into a seat with your thin briefcase resting on your lap, noticing that the rest of the passengers are likewise getting comfortable for the short trip across the lake. Glancing around, you catch sight of the ferryman entering the cabin. As you sit patiently and wait for the engine to come to life, you listen to the sounds of idle chatter around you. You look out across the water and notice a thin fog beginning to form over the surface of the water as the temperature drops with the approach of night. After a few minutes, you hear the engine sputter into action and feel the ferry lurch forward. The conversations around you continue as the ferryman joins you all on the deck. You can't help overhearing most of the talk, though it's surprisingly banal. There are almost a dozen passengers on the ferry. Most of them are simply looking to spend their money during their weekend in Esbury and to enjoy the various shops and leisure activities the lakeside town has to offer. Many of the passengers seem to come from money, as is common in Esbury. You notice a strange look from one of the women in the group. She has a full figure and brown hair and eyes. She seems to be looking you over, admiring your features. The woman clearly sees something in you that she likes. Perhaps it's your looks or a glint of intelligence in your eyes. She gives you a sly wink before turning back to her companions. You likewise turn your attention to the rest of the passengers. Sitting apart from the general crowd are two men in dark, well-tailored suits, whispering quietly to each other. They have unamused expressions on their faces, as if they don't seem pleased to be here. Perhaps they're on business. Noticing that you're sitting alone, the ferryman approaches you and stands over you with his characteristic smile. You notice he's missing a tooth in the upper left corner of his mouth. His eyes are bright as they light upon you. "Good afternoon. You look a bit lonely there, friend. What brings you to Esbury?" What people would notice on this ferry is a woman. Heavily tanned skin, dark hair, and brown eyes, and she's wearing a smart skirt suit with a lace-collared blouse and a straw tam-o'-shanter hat, which looks at odds with her otherwise smart clothing. She carries her thin briefcase containing her manuscripts from research, and the usual change of undergarment and a few essential toiletries. And as we mentioned the passing of a distant colleague in Esbury and how we've been sent by Miss Catonic to recover his work and bring it back to the university, the man sighs and nods slowly. "Oh, you mean Professor Harris? Real shame what happened to him. Always seemed like such a nice man. Officer Powell says they're still cleaning up the mess at the professor's place, but some of the more valuable bits will probably be at the estate sale tonight, if you're really wanting at it." The man looks down at his hands for a moment and then back at you as he extends one your way. "Anyway, I'm Lance Sanford. Pleased to meet you, but I wish it were under better circumstances, eh?" "I'm going to inquire about Professor Harris." As I do, the ferryman raises a question eyebrow at me. "Professor Harris? I can't say much, really. I didn't know him all that well, but he seemed like a nice guy. I was sad to hear that he died." You gently press for more information about his death. Sanford frowns, but answers, Officer Powell says it's suicide. I'm inclined to believe him, but Professor Harris seemed happy enough to me. More than content to relax in Esbury like anyone else. In between his studies, of course. Ancient Indian history, I think it was. I had coffee with the professor a few weeks ago and he talked my ear off about it. I couldn't understand half of what he said, but he was quite excited by whatever it was. You exchange a few more pleasantries with Sanford before he goes off to finish guiding the boat into port. You pass the time in casual conversation with the other passengers and in observing the scenery. You note the tall pines and the sloping hills along the lakeshore around Esbury. These features and the small town beyond are just visible through the growing mist, but squinting helps make them out to your satisfaction. In time, you arrive on the pier at Esbury, grateful to be off the water. You take your first steps onto the pier with the rest of the ferry passengers, trying to get your land legs once again. The passengers still chat casually as they walk off to their destinations. You note one last little flirty wink from the full-figured woman as she struts along confidently behind the women accompanying her, and you feel the two dark-suited men push past you at a brisk pace, nudging you out of their way. Sanford gives you one last wave and a smile as he begins tending to the old rust-stained boat that is his pride and joy. The last light of the sun is fading fast, and the fog is growing thick on the water now. The night is still young, but you would rather not be wandering around in the dark and fog of a town you are unfamiliar with. Taking in your surroundings, you see a sizable crowd jockeying for entrance into a lavish, modern-looking building across the lakeside. A folding sign sits out front, illuminated by a lantern. The words, "Estate sale tonight," are written out in large, bold letters. While this seems to be the main attraction, you could also seek out somewhere to stay for the night and set about your work in the morning. Let's go visit the estate. Pushing through the crowd, you make your way toward the estate sale. Judging by the number of people packing into the dance hall, this seems to be quite the event. Most of the people here are well dressed, with conspicuous amounts of jewelry and designer clothing on display. You see a broad-shouldered man in a policeman's uniform standing by the door. He has a scarred yet clean-shaven face and a baton at his side. His brow is furrowed in a serious expression, and he watches the commotion through narrow eyes. As you mingle with the assorted academics and collectors, you notice a few other faces that stand out in the crowd. Most immediately, you spot a man in flowing orange robes with tawny skin. He seems more than a little out of place and is garnering some odd looks from the other guests. Glancing around further, you happen to notice the two dark-suited gentlemen from earlier, standing in a corner toward the front of the room, talking to a young, dark-haired man in a dated yet elegant long coat. He is of a slight build and has rather sharp features. A thin wisp of a mustache hangs beneath his nose. Most notable, though, is the rather attractive young woman standing on stage at the front of the room next to a bespectacled old man. Long black hair cascades down her shoulders, accentuating her pale features and complementing her formal black dress. Occasionally, she and the older gentleman peek at objects hidden beneath white sheets, the sale items waiting to be displayed. Let's go speak to the officer at the back of the room. You turn around and backtrack toward the entrance to the ballroom. Something about the officer by the door catches your attention and holds it. He gives off a commanding presence and his eyes bore into you intensely as you make your way over to him. As you move within earshot, he rests his hand on his baton and clears his throat. I really hope there isn't going to be any sort of problem, citizen. I wouldn't want to see anyone getting hurt tonight. His hand does not move from his baton. Make a psychology roll. My psychology is 70. That is an 87 failure. The officer seems rather alert and vigilant. It would probably be best not to bother him and let him do his job. He clearly does not need or want your help in any way. Let's go approach the man in the orange. You approach the strange man. He seems well-traveled and weary, and his long orange robes are a stark contrast to the fine suits and dresses of the New England financial elite. He seems decidedly out of place. You open your mouth as if to speak and find him staring intensely at you. Make an anthropology roll. That is a 48 under 60, a success. You recognize the man's style of dress to be that of a Buddhist monk. You bow a customary greeting, to which the monk smiles and returns the gesture before speaking in heavily accented but fluent English. It is good to see one here with such respect for our customs. I am Banyu. His expressions turns to a frown as he makes a sweeping gesture to the rest of the room. The rest here seem only to seek to profit from my culture. Selling the items of my ancestors is most shameful. You respectfully question why he would come such a long way to witness such a thing, and he sighs before turning back to you. I have come with what money my temple could gather, so that I might have a certain few of the artifacts. Ones that your Professor Harris stole from my temple in Sarnath when he came to visit some years ago. The monk seems troubled and falls silent. He bows a farewell and takes the cue to leave. Let's go mingle with the crowd of guests. Rather than single anyone or anything in particular out, you feel it would be best to use your time to get a general impression and speak to multiple people to get their points of view. Hearing the talk around the room, you come to understand that most of the people who have gathered here are merely treating this as a social event. However, there are a few number of academics and collectors in attendance as well. Judging by the relative wealth of the townsfolk, you imagine that there will be a lot of bids placed on the items. While walking among the guests, you happen to notice a pair of men conversing in hushed tones. They seem to be trying to avoid being overheard, but a keen ear might be able to catch what is being said. Make a listen roll. That is a 94 over 35 failure. You strain your ears trying to overhear the huddled pair's words, but the noise of the other conversations around the room drowns out what is said. Let's go introduce ourselves to the dark-suited men. You approach the huddled group and introduce yourself to them, stating that you recognize them from the ferry. The two men from earlier appear annoyed at your presence and are visibly irritated. Scram, we don't know you. You got nothing to do with us. The third man seems likewise bothered and frowns at your intrusion. They certainly make you feel unwelcome, ignoring you in hopes that you'll leave. The two men in suits turn their backs to you. You see the jacket of each suit shift oddly, as if it's ill-fitting. Make a spot hidden roll. That is a 21 under 50. Success. You are well traveled enough to know that the two men are concealing handguns at their waists. What they could possibly need them for is beyond you, but their hidden weapons and shady nature make you think it isn't good. Before you turn to go, you think you catch a glint of metal from beneath the folds of the young man's coat as well. This man might likewise be armed. I feel we have enough information at this hall, so we are going to leave and go find a place to stay for the night. While the estate cell seems interesting, you would feel more secure with the roof over your head for the night. You pull someone out of the crowd and inquire as to where you can find a room to rent. You're directed a few blocks into town to a modestly priced hotel a few buildings down from Esbury's police station. As you enter in from the cool night air, you're greeted by the heat of a roaring fire. The small front room feels stuffy and cramped. The bulk of the space is dominated by the large service counter, behind which sits a wiry-looking wisp of a woman. She turns her wide eyes to you and asks your name, then quotes you a price that's more than fair. With the transaction complete, you haul your thin briefcase up the stairs, unpack it, and settle into your room for the night. You wake in the morning, grateful for the rest. You rise from your bed and take in the modest surroundings that make up your room. The furnishings are sparse, a small, poor-quality dresser and a cramped and dusty writing desk tucked in the corner. Sitting atop the desk is a plate of eggs and toast, apparently set out for you by the hotel's owner. The walls are plain and unadorned, save for a single window that faces toward the lake. However, this view is currently blocked by the incredibly thick fog, which has taken on a pale green hue. Your vision is obscured entirely, and you cannot see into the depths of that outlandish green mist. You also notice your personal belongings placed around the room, exactly as you left them the night before. After getting dressed and eating the modest breakfast set out for you, you're ready to begin your day. You take a moment to consider what that means for you. Your mind turns to Professor Harris. If you're so inclined, you might be able to investigate the circumstances of his death further. Considering that you don't have his widow Amelia's address, you would have to start your search with the official report filed with Officer Powell at the police station. Alternatively, you could take this free time to look through your belongings and examine any items you might have. The hotel owner has been in your room, so a check of your things might be in order. Or perhaps you have some other reason to look over your possessions. Finally, if you feel that your business in Esbury is concluded, you can always try to find Lance Sanford at the ferry. I'm going to look over our items. A cursory inspection of your personal belongings reveals that nothing is amiss. All of your possessions are just as you left them. While you are here looking your things over, you can take this opportunity to more closely scrutinize items bought at the estate sale. Alternatively, you may leave and go explore elsewhere if your curiosity is satisfied. As I did not buy any items at the estate sale, I think we will go to the police station. You step out into the greenish mist. You feel it clinging tightly to you as you make your way the short distance to the police station. Upon entering the small brick building, you are struck with a sense of claustrophobia. The walls here are uncomfortably close together and space is tight. Crammed into the tiny structure are a large desk, several filing cabinets, and a few chairs. A closet-sized holding cell with iron bars sits at the rear of the room. Behind the large desk is Officer Powell, smoking a cigar with his feet propped up onto the table. His coat is unbuttoned and his hat lies on the top of a stack of papers, next to a battered old revolver. He opens one eye and frowns at you, sighing through his cigar as he straightens himself up to look presentable. If you're bothering me right now, I'm going to assume this is important. You mentioned that you would like to see the police report for Professor William Harris's death, to which he replies with a snort. You have no business dealing with that. And even if you did, this is my jurisdiction. Shove off and leave me in peace. He doesn't seem cooperative, but perhaps you could convince him that you have some special circumstance that warrants you looking through his files. Make a fast talk roll. That is a 15 under 30 success. You imply that you know the right sort of people who might ask the wrong sort of questions if you don't get access to that report. You aren't certain whether or not Officer Powell believes you, but you can tell it's more trouble than he's willing to risk. With a look of irritation, he thumbs through the stack of papers on his desk before handing you the file you asked after. According to the report, Professor Harris's death is officially a suicide. His death occurred at his home address. He was up late one night in his study, where he stuck a gun into his mouth and painted the room red. His body was found the following afternoon by his wife, Amelia Harris. There was no note. The deceased had no prior criminal history, and the gun found at the scene hadn't been used in any reported crimes. Overall, the report is dry and minimalist. All requisite information is present, but only to the barest standard of diligence. Satisfied, you hand the file back to Powell, who grumbles and tucks it away before clearing his throat loudly and propping his feet back up. You feel that you have been given a cue to leave, and that Officer Powell will not likely be of much further help. Let us go to the Harris household. You walk into town toward the Harris address. Even knowing the location, it's difficult for you to find your way due to your unfamiliarity with the town and the density of the peculiar green mist. As a result, it's some time before you arrive at the Harris house. As you approach the building, a man steps out of the fog blocking your path. He's young and thin, with a rather angular features and the faint hint of a mustache atop his lip. He's dressed in a dark suit and stares at you from beneath a flat cap. You're an unwelcome surprise. I don't know what you're looking for, but you won't find it here. Your eyes betray you as you glance at the Harris house. The man scowls visibly. Why don't you leave the poor widow alone, you creep? If you want to bother her, you're going to have to go through old Joshua here, capiche? His hand brushes beneath his coat as if searching for something, but then he stops himself. He pauses for a moment, looking you over once more before spitting on the ground at your feet and turning away. We're going to continue our way to the Harris house. Despite Joshua's urgings, you feel compelled to speak to Amelia yourself. You approach the front of the house and note your surroundings. The house's exterior hints at the wealth of the occupants. But then again, so do most places in town. Directly across from the residence is a small church, whose religious iconography seems to have inspired the Harrises in the design of their own home. A bronze cross hangs over the front door, and decorative columns line the outside walls of the two-story house. All in all, the architectural style is somewhat Baroque, complete with a pair of carved angels lounging beneath the eaves that are just visible through the strange haze. You knock on the door and wait in the mist for a few moments, hoping for someone to hear you. Eventually, much to your relief, the widow Amelia answers the door. She's wearing a bright red dress, which accents her deep crimson lipstick. She appears to have taken great care over her appearance. She flashes you a smile and invites you inside. The house opens into a large foyer, and you see various crates and bundles stacked high among the walls. Just selling off a few of the more common things. Mind the mess. The porter hasn't come in for it yet. She takes you by the hand to lead you past the stacks of items, helping you to pick your way through the deceased Professor Harris's assembled possessions. She takes you into a small drawing room full of antique furniture and offers you some coffee. After settling in and exchanging a few well-mannered pleasantries, you ask in more detail about the late Professor Harris. Amelia sighs theatrically and leans down. I can't imagine what you want to talk about, William. I found him in his study with the gun still in his mouth. What more could you want to know? Make a psychology roll. That is a 61 under 70. Success. You don't know why you hadn't realized it before. Selling all of his things, adopting such a flirty demeanor, dismissing questions about her husband's death. Amelia doesn't seem too broken up about her husband passing. She's hiding something. You'd bet your career on it. You suspect she's involved in Professor Harris's death in some form or other. You open your mouth, prepare to call her bluff and press her for more information, but you are interrupted by a loud knock at the door. Amelia jumps up, startled, and stands there for a moment in confusion as the pounding on the door resumes. "Police! Open the door!" Amelia's face drains white as she goes to answer the knock. Your gut tells you something is wrong here. You feel uneasy about the officer at the door. You tell yourself you're being irrational and on edge, but you have some trouble fighting that feeling. You have a few precious moments to react. We are going to take this chance to hide, so make a stealth roll. That is an 18 under 30 success. Your hunches are never wrong. Whatever that officer is here for, you don't want any part of it. Glancing around, you weigh your options. You decide to creep toward Amelia and the Officer Powell, positioning yourself behind a stack of items that are waiting for the porter. Neither of them seems to notice you as they rush past your hiding place, giving you a clear line to the door. Alternatively, now might be a good time to explore the house. While there is a risk of discovery, it's not as if you have anything to lose by snooping around somewhere you weren't supposed to be. For a brief moment, your gaze wanders to the staircase opposite the entryway. The bedrooms and study are likely up there, and you might be able to find some valuable information. Let's explore upstairs. You turn your attention to the set of stairs opposite the entrance. You ascend the staircase and see two doors, one to either side of you. The door to your left is slightly ajar and no doubt leads to the bedroom. By process of elimination, the door to your right must lead to the study. It seems to be locked and you don't have a key. With enough time, you might be able to get the door open, but it would probably be unwise to spend too long trying, since someone may come to investigate. Let's try to enter the study. So I will make a locksmith roll. That is a 49 under 50 success. You reach into your pocket and produce the bobby pin that you carry on you for just this occasion. You insert it into the lock and fumble with it for a few minutes. It sticks and strains, and for several terrible seconds you fear that it will break in the lock. And then the tumblers give, and the door clicks open. You push your way into the small study and find the room much as you've expected. The door opens across from a window, which lets in the pale greenish light of the mist. This illuminates the room, which is adorned primarily with mostly empty bookcases. There are several glass display cases throughout the room, but these are similarly empty. At the far end of the room, just beneath the window, is a desk, still littered with the professor's blood-soaked papers. Searching through the desk drawers, you find stacks of notes and various personal items. Buried in the bottom drawer, you find an impossibly old scrap of papyrus pressed into a glass frame. All across the ancient document are strange and unusual scrawls. As you pick it up to inspect it, you notice a sheet of paper lightly attached to the back of the frame, bearing the same scrawls as the papyrus but with annotations in its margins. Presumably, this is a translation of the papyrus text. As you read it over, you marvel at the impossibility of its content. The papyrus purports to be written by a priest from an unknown city by the name of Ilarnek. In this account, the priest records observations of an odd and ugly race of beings who once lived upon a lake in the forgotten land of Mar. The document goes into great detail about the fire rituals of these strange creatures and speaks of the haunting dances they would perform in the light of the flames beneath the gibbous moon. And always under the watchful gaze of a sea-green stone idol chiseled in the likeness of a great lizard. The priest's writings go on to mention rituals used to ward off the influence of that detestable creature, rituals performed by humans. The text for the ritual in the annotation is untranslated and simply rendered in standard characters so that it reads Ihiyar Nog Luli A Borog. The strange phrase sticks in your mind. You pause for a moment to consider the implications. You carefully detach the translation, fold it up, and put it in your pocket as evidence before exiting the study. You turn around and leave the door closed behind you. Looking down the stairs, you realize that you are not alone. Dominating the entryway is Joshua, red-faced and furious. He has a gun in his right hand, which he quickly aims in your direction. You have just a second to hit the ground before he pulls the trigger. Perhaps your reflexes are quick enough. Make a dodge roll. That is a 7 under 50. Success. You throw yourself to the floor with all haste, trying to get out of the line of fire. You hear the loud sound of the gunshot as a bullet embeds itself in the wall behind you. You hear a squeal as Amelia comes running after Joshua, begging him to stop shooting and put the gun away. He curses and shoves her aside, but he does holster his weapon. He rushes past her and up the stairs, just as you manage to stumble to your feet. He comes at you, swinging his fist. It's not ideal, but at least with the gun put away, you have a fighting chance. Make a fighting brawl roll. That is a 23 under 45. Success. As Joshua towers over you, fists raised in rage, an idea crosses your mind. You pull both of your feet up and drive them into his chest. You kick him back with all your might, sending him tumbling down the stairs. You hear several thumps and thuds as Joshua rolls down the steps. When he reaches the bottom, he lays there, sprawled out and clearly injured. His groans betray his semi-consciousness state, and you walk over to him confidently. With one final kick, you send him over the edge into unconsciousness. Amelia is mortified at the sight. She runs out into the street, fleeing the scene. You quickly search Joshua's pockets and find his wallet, which includes his identification with an address. A search of his other pocket reveals a house key. Several options are immediately apparent. You can continue searching the house, leaving in pursuit of Amelia, or make your way to Joshua's home. Well, I would also like to take his gun, but that is not an option currently. So, I will continue to search the Harris house, actually. With no immediate threat to yourself, you're free to explore the Harris household, though you do so quickly in case someone comes looking. Glancing about the sitting room you're in, you find it's in a bit of a mess from the earlier scuffle. Looking toward the entrance, you note the foyer, filled with boxes, crates, and other unidentifiable objects covered with dust sheets. You poke your head into the next room and find a kitchen and adjacent dining room, both spotlessly maintained, though sparsely furnished. Peeking beneath the dust sheets in the entryway, you find various items of furniture and decor, as well as stacks and stacks of books. Many of them are historical texts and reference materials, some of which were written by Professor Harris himself. There is also a large number of general works of science and literature, as befits any well-educated man. You place the covers back down, sensing that you will find nothing of value here. You turn your attention instead to the set of stairs opposite the entrance. You ascend the staircase and see two doors once again, one to either side of you. This time, let's enter the bedroom. You push aside the door and enter the bedroom. The room is lavishly decorated and very feminine. Large, soft pillows sit atop the bed, and a tangle of sheets and blankets lie strewn across the mattress. Judging by the state of the room, this place belonged more to Amelia than it did Professor Harris, even before his death. The room is dominated by her personal effects. A makeup case sits atop the dresser with a hand mirror beside it. The door to the closet is open. The racks inside overflow with various dresses and fashionable outfits. The clothes belonging to the late Professor Harris take up a small and innocuous corner of the closet, pushed far to the side so as not to get in the way of Amelia's things. The most surprising find you stumble upon is a small pile of discarded men's clothing next to the bed. It seems to have been left there recently, and given the difference in style and size to the men's clothes in the closet, it's clear they do not belong to Professor Harris. Your suspicion is confirmed when you see a photograph of Joshua on the nightstand. There is also a half-empty bottle of whiskey there, and 2 glasses sitting next to it. You also happen to notice a safe built into the wall, just behind the nightstand. A combination lock keeps it sealed, though if you were so inclined, you may be able to crack it. There's little else of interest in this room. We are definitely going to attempt to open the safe. To attempt to open the safe, make a locksmith roll. That is a 58 over 50, but I'm going to spend 8 luck points to bring it down to 50, and that is a success. You take a knee and begin twisting the combination lock slowly, listening for the sound of the clicks and feeling for the slight stopping of the dial with a successful guess of the number. You repeat this process a few times, and the safe door swings open with barely perceptible creak. The contents of the safe are fairly sparse. There is a stack of documents on the bottom shelf, passports, birth certificates, and financial papers. A quick look at them reveals nothing of interest. They're tied to both Amelia and William Harris, so it appears as if this safe hasn't been opened since the professor's death. There's also a solitary small gold bar, little over 2 pounds in weight, sitting off to one side. Considering the trouble you went through to get to this point, you place the gold bar in your pocket as compensation. At least now you won't be leaving empty-handed. Satisfied, and with nothing more to see in the room, you leave and move on. You get ready to leave the Harris household as you feel your business here is concluded. You pause at the door a moment to consider what your next step should be. You know you spent a good deal of time at the Harris place, and though the fog prevents you from making out the time of day, you imagine there's not much daylight left. But still, we are going to investigate Joshua's house. You make your way through Esbury streets, confirming your whereabouts every so often by approaching a building to check the address against the location you're searching for. After some time, you arrive at Joshua's house. You insert the key in the lock and open the door into a small living area. Glancing around, you see a compact living room and kitchen. There are 2 doors at opposite ends of the common area. The door to your left is wide open, and you can see a set of stairs leading down. The door to your right is closed. You assume it leads to the bedroom. So that's where we will head. Let's head to the bedroom. You open the door to find a bedroom, much as you expected. The room clearly belongs to a bachelor, as the only feminine object is a set of lace sleepwear lying across the bed. You look to a nearby nightstand and find several framed photographs of Joshua and Amelia, so you assume the clothes are hers. Peeking out of a drawer in the nightstand is an open box of bullets, as well as several bottles of bootleg whiskey. You scan the rest of the room. The only other object of note is a dresser. You search it and find it to be full of men's clothing, the sort that Joshua would wear. However, as you are rifling through his things, you find an envelope. Turning it over, you see it's unsealed, and judging by the crumpled state of it, the letter inside has been read over several times. You pull out the letter and begin reading. It appears to be a correspondence between Joshua and a Dr. Weber, based out of Arkham. Weber is, apparently, a psychotherapist that Joshua sees on a monthly basis. According to the letter, the past few months have been quite difficult for Joshua. In addition to his criminal activities and his relationship with Amelia, he has been troubled by strange dreams, which Dr. Weber labeled as obsessive delusions. Joshua has a fixation with a particular dream of a beautiful city in a far-off land. He describes the city as made of marble and says that sometimes he wakes up crying because he has to leave it behind in his dreams. He also reports seeing a frightening lizard thing in the water off the shore of this strange city. Sometimes, in the night, it whispers that it knows the way to the city. Though the lizard thing scares him, he listens to the whispers. Joshua professes a deep desire to go to the city, though he doesn't know where it is or even if it's real. For his part, Dr. Weber assures Joshua that these things are completely fictitious and that he must find a way to return to reality and leave the delusions behind. You stand over the table of curious artifacts, confident that they have something to do with the strange events in Esbury. You decide it's best to look them over and glean what information you can from them. You begin by leafing through the stack of notes. You realize they contain some of the same characters that are written on some of the ancient items. You may be able to use these notes to assist in any translation attempts you wish to make. There is also an empty sack on the table that was used to bring these relics here. You are free to load them back up and take them with you. After examining each item, it will be added to your inventory, and you will be redirected back here to proceed as appropriate. So let's look over the journal. Looking through the book, you become deeply engrossed and spend the next few hours in study. The time spent yields valuable information. Professor Harris made several trips to India, starting about 12 years ago. During these visits, he went to multiple sites to make observations and recover artifacts. His longest and most profitable trip appears to have been 10 years ago during an excursion to Sarnath, India, where he writes about recovering several items from an active Buddhist shrine. Apparently, Professor Harris had some regrets about this theft, but he couldn't resist having the artifacts for his personal collection. The descriptions of the items he came across in Sarnath match some of the items at the estate sale last night. The clay cylinders, the gemstone-encrusted altar, and the lizard-like idol are all described in detail in the entries related to his trip to Sarnath. These same items then appear throughout the rest of his journal. He'd clearly been studying these items over the past decade and developed something of a fixation with them. It was the idol that initially caught Harris's eye, and according to him, the depiction of the great and grotesque water lizard matched no description of any known Hindu deity. Hoping to find clues to the idol's identity, Harris set about trying to translate the mysterious script on the cylinders and the altar. In doing so, he met with significant difficulty, as the text was only barely recognizable as an archaic dialect of a pre-Sanskrit language. The process was slow and painstaking until about a year ago. At this time, Professor Harris writes of having a strange and enlightening dream. He reports walking in the ancient world from whence these items originated, a grand city of marble walls and onyx streets, of bronze gates and marvelous palaces and gardens. He writes of visiting the 17-tower temples of this ancient city and meeting the bearded gods who dwelled there, sat upon their ivory thrones. Harris calls the strange place Sarnath, despite the sheer impossibility of this. He claims that among the temples he learned the secrets of the ancient writing. His next entry goes on to describe the odd clay cylinders as the brick cylinders of Kadatheron, though he hadn't yet identified the other objects. The next few pages have been torn from the journal. The entries resume with more mundane matters, though there are still references to the artifacts from time to time. The more recent entries in the journal speak of Harris's daily studies and living with Amelia. It's clear that he cares about her deeply from the way he writes about her, but he laments that his studies keep him from spending the time with her that he would like. Instead, He lavished her with gifts and money, which she was all too happy to accept. He notes that Amelia had never been happier despite the distance between them. The last entry to catch your eye is dated a little over a week ago. Apparently, the pages torn from his journal went missing not only recently. Professor Harris expresses deep concern at this, as there were no signs of forced entry to his study, and only he and Amelia had access to it, though he was sure he hadn't removed them from the journal himself. You finish your reading by glossing over the last week of the professor's life, which is rather uneventful and peaceful beyond his continued obsession with the artifacts and his occasional worries about Amelia. Let's take a look at the clay cylinders. You turn the hardened clay cylinders over in your hands, your eyes falling on the large cracks running through both items. Despite this damage, their solid construction has led to the cylinder's survival throughout the ages. The next most obvious quality is the strange writing that is plastered along the side of each cylinder. It's quite remarkable in it that it doesn't resemble any language known to you. Using the notes on the table, you attempt to translate it. Make an archaeology roll. That is a 43 under 70. Success. You turn the hardened clay cylinders over in your hand and squint to make out the tiny script pressed into their sides. Consulting the notes stacked beside you, you begin to work out a rough translation. The cylinders tell the story of the lake mist green beings of Ib, with their bulging eyes, pouting, flabbing lips, curious ears, and voiceless mouths. It speaks of the origins of these strange beings, how they descended one night from the moon in a mist, and gave praise to the chiseled sea stone idol of Bakrug beneath the gibbous moon. It goes on to describe their strange city of stone and their ritual destruction of precious metals to appease this detestable water lizard. The tale is perplexing and impossible, but, if true, it is rather frightening. You recall the green mist outside and note with alarm that the moon is gibbous tonight. As you place the clay cylinders in the sack, you glance over at the sea green idol nearby and are further chilled by what this might portend. Increase your Cthulhu Mythos skill by 2 percentiles. You stand over the table of curious artifacts and look over at the idol. It's made of sea green stone and chiseled in the likeness of a water lizard of some sort. The sculpture is grotesque and hideous, and the depiction of lizard-like creature unnerves you. Still, the work is extremely well preserved and unquestionably ancient. You feel uncomfortable staring at the alien-looking thing for too long, so you stow it away in the sack out of sight. Let's take a look at the gemstone altar. You examine the extraordinary altar. The most readily apparent features beyond its size are the many gemstones set into its surface. They are of a greenish-yellow color and shine even in the half-light of the moon. You also notice strange lettering written in broad strokes along the object's sides. The symbols are smeared and sloppily done, suggesting they were written with some haste. What you had originally taken for paint is, upon closer examination, dried blood. While you cannot be certain, it would appear that this item has been involved in some tragedy. Using the notes on the table, you may be able to piece together a translation of the text written in blood. Make an archaeology roll. That is a 46 under 70. Success. You fix your eyes first on the strange altar, and then on the stack of notes. Rifling through them, you are able to piece together the characters written in dry blood on the altar side. Bakrug brings doom to Sarnath. As you look over the altar, you also notice smaller letters, this time written in ink. hidden just beneath the larger bloody characters. The smaller text appears to be some sort of chant. Yaharar, Nog, Nulia, Bakrug. The words stick in your mind. As you begin stuffing the religious object into your sack, you note a similar script on the other side of the altar, written in fresh blood. Most of the characters are the same, and you once again consult the notes to finish the translation. You decode the missing word to find the text now reads, Bakrug brings doom to Esbury. Somewhat unnerved, you finish shoving the altar into your bag, knowing that it's evidence of some sort of cult practice or deranged religious belief. The thought does not sit well with you. You have learned another ritual chant. Let's leave the house. You decide that you've seen enough of Joshua's house and that you have no reason to linger here. You exit the building and close the door behind you. You look out into the fog and find it thicker than you remember. You can see almost nothing. Compounding this problem is the darkness, which has completely fallen while you were inside. Armed with new knowledge, you feel prepared to confront what lies ahead of you. You take a few steps out into the street and are shocked to find the town's cobblestones waterlogged. The lake's water level is rising, and Esbury is beginning to flood. Given earlier events, you suspect this may not be entirely natural. Even if it is, the rapidly rising water is a serious threat in itself. You feel a twinge of fear, but overcome it and spur yourself into action. You know you must escape the flood, and that you must act quickly. Let's search for higher ground and hope to avoid these rising waters. You try to find somewhere you can wait out the flood, somewhere at a high elevation that won't be consumed by the rising water. Thanks to the darkness and the fog, you won't be able to scan this town's skyline to look for such a place and will, instead, have to rely on your memory. The only place close that comes to mind would be the nearby church. If the worst should happen, you could climb up into the bell tower to wait out the flood. You rush toward the house of worship. You see its solid gray stonework peeking out at you from the fog, providing a sense of comfort and security. You push open the church's large double doors and slip inside, quickly closing the doors behind you, in hopes they will at least buy you some time before the water seeps in. You rush to the stairs leading up to the bell tower and climb them as quickly as you can. You soon find yourself looking out over Esbury. The town itself is shrouded in mist, but from this high vantage point, you can see over the fog to the lake beyond. Large, undulating waves break the surface of the normally placid waters, and the stars and gibbous moon are brightly reflected from the dark backdrop. Finding yourself in relative safety, you finally have a moment to pause and reflect. You take a deep breath, bowing your head in thought, or perhaps prayer. Your mind is in a whirl, but eventually, a single thought breaks through, determining your course of action. If you know a ritual chant, now is a time you may choose to use it. The words of the ritual chant force themselves into your mind. You stare blankly at the reflection of the moon and stars upon the rising waters of the lake. Your lips move as if controlled by someone else, automatically uttering the strange syllables of the unfamiliar words. Yaharar, Nog, Nui, Bakrug. You recite the words in a slow, monotonous voice, speaking the phrase 10 times before you stop. You feel strangely tired after this, so you sit on the belfry stones and look out over the town. The water has risen so high over the tops of many of the buildings in Esbury, and you're positioned on one of the few landmarks still above water. You're certain that much damage has been done here. At least the water is still and placid now, apparently returned to its normally peaceful state. The unnatural green mist seems to be dissipating as well. It still lingers here and there, but by the light of the gibbous moon, you can see the fog starting to thin out. You take a deep breath, pondering what is to come next. Eventually, exhaustion overtakes you. You lean back, close your eyes, and drift into a deep slumber. Your sleep is disturbed by strange and horrific dreams. You see a shining city of marble, onyx, and lustrous gems. You see this magnificent city in all of its splendor, sitting next to a placid lake. And then, in an instant, it's gone as the water rises up to swallow it. The lizard thing of the idol, given life and power, surges up from the water. The being eyes you with malicious sentience as the waters swell and consume you. You exist in this state for what feels like an eternity, drifting through the sunken ruins alongside the horrible lizard thing. It eyes you closely, scrutinizing your every motion, but it never acts, merely watches you with checked malevolence. As you stare into its eyes, you begin to wish it would simply consume you, so you wouldn't have to be under its watchful gaze any longer. This becomes a maddening desire, and you find yourself willingly swimming toward the thing. It opens its jaws to receive you, revealing row after row of needle-like teeth. Just as you're about to offer yourself to the creature, you finally wake. You find yourself dangling over the edge of the belfry, about to roll into the flooded town below and lose yourself in the waters. You quickly pull back toward the center of the platform for safety. As you do so, a glimmer within your sack catches your eye. You reach inside to find the source and extract the sea green stone idol. It shimmers with the bluish-white light of angry intensity. Looking at it pains your eyes. You consider throwing the damnable thing into the water below, but something stops you. A thought creeps into your mind, taking shape and driving your actions. Make a power roll. That is a 26 under 80. Success. Your mind clouds over once more, as if dreaming again. You see the strange city in your mind's eye. Your vision passes over precious metals changing hands between exotic merchants. Discs of silver and gold move from buyer to seller before disappearing into bags and boxes. You glide formlessly over the city and out into the surrounding lands, where you see the citizens marching in lines, carrying precious metals to the city from the mines. You float above it all and look out to the lake, where you sense brooding hatred and disgust. Your awareness snaps back to reality as you stare into the idol's light. You make the connection between those precious metals and this grotesque lizard thing's disdain. You reach into your pocket and pull out the small gold bar. As you walk toward the statue, you hear a reptilian hiss in your mind, all-consuming and oppressive, shaking you to your core. Instinctively, you grab your head with your other hand, trying to hold back the growing headache. You find yourself standing over the idol. You raise the ingot high above your head and bring it crashing down onto the stone figure. As soon as the gold touches the sea green stone, the idol shatters into several fragments. As it splits apart, the hissing roar in your head subsides, though your brain still throbs. The mental strain has worn you down, and you swiftly drift off into a deep and dreamless slumber. When you finally awake, you're being pulled into a boat by the authorities who came to investigate the flooding. You don't know how long you've been there, but you're taken to the far lakeshore and eventually on to Boston, where you spend several days in much-needed rest. While there, the story of what happened in Esbury hits the newspapers. According to the reports, the freak flooding caught the entire town off guard, and there are very few survivors. Still, the water is beginning to subside now, and bodies and property are being recovered. Though Esbury was claimed by the flood, you were not. And with all that you learned of the mysterious entity behind it, you were able to destroy the unholy idol that was the source of its connection to this world, and in doing so, you've prevented this horror from being unleashed on the world again. You will forever remember your time in Esbury, and you will carry the horror of the place with you wherever you go. But you can take solace in the fact that the foul, lizard-like creature has been put to rest. Congratulations on surviving alone against the tide, and on thwarting the malign forces of the mythos at work in the quiet lakeshore town. The end.